having worked with Robert Mitchum, who I also did scenes with in The Big Sleep later on, and he used to grab me and hit me and do all these things in The Big Sleep, and I didn't have a single bruise or mark on me, as opposed to Jack Palance, who went every time he did it, it hurt more and more, and because he was a big guy.
Right now, we are thrilled to have a Golden Globe winner, a dame with us. Ain't many dames made westerns. But we have Dame Joan Collins, who was in one of the best, the Bravados, with Gregory Peck, right here, and she is our guest right now.
Howdy, partner.
Howdy, howdy.
Hi. Is this on?
Yes, it is, and you are so sexy.
Well, I'll tell that to Laura. She'll be thrilled. As a young girl, 20 years old, from London, England, I came to Hollywood, and the first thing that they had me do at 20th Century Fox was put me on a horse to learn how to ride a horse. Now, everybody thinks that English women can ride horses because they think of Camilla, who's married to Prince Charles and all those ladies. I could not ride a horse, and not only that, I had to ride it side saddle, and I was very bad at it. And a friend of mine at the time was Gene Kelly, and I told him I was so scared of falling off, and he said, well, you mustn't let them put you on a horse, honey, because first of all, it is dangerous, and second of all, you're putting a stunt gal out of work. And so I thought, yes. So whenever it came time for me to be on the horse, and I was in this sort of 13th century costume, I insisted on having my stunt double do it. But then I did the Bravados later on, like 3 or 4 years later, and I was still terrified of horses. And my, you call him a trainer, a wrangler, yeah. He kept on saying, "Oh, don't."
They may call them trainers in England.
Trainers,
here
yeah.
we call them wranglers.
And that's what we have on our feet. Yeah. And he said, "There's nothing to be scared of, honey. Nothing to be scared of." You know. And he patted the horse, and he knelt down because I was doing a close-up, and I didn't want to get up on the horse. I didn't know how to do that. So they had a little step for me. And while I was getting up on the step, the horse reared up with his back leg and kicked the trainer on his ankle and broke his ankle. So that really scared me. And so when we then went to Mexico to shoot this movie, The Bravados, with Gregory Peck.
It's not a pretty story. Powerful and relentless. Completely different from anything you've seen before.
I was really kind of worried about it, and I kept on getting my stunt double. And Greg came into my dressing shack, which is what we had, and said, you got to do it, honey, you got to do it. Because we had this scene in which we are riding along the edge of a cliff. Do you remember that scene?
Yes, I do.
That was me on that horse, Rob. That wasn't my double. Because Greg, he made me feel really small and stupid, so he made me do it. And I got on the horse, and it was really windy, and I had to jam my hat down on my head, and Greg was encouraging me, and I was the one outside. I think I was the one next to the canyon. Yeah, and we did it, and we were just galloping really, really fast, but I did it. And after that, he sort of clapped me on the back. You know, he was such a great guy, and he said, well done, honey, well done.
I know how you feel. Go after them, Jim, and catch them. Get them, be fast. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them!
Well, he did some great westerns. Henry King, who directed him in The Gunfighter also. He was so strong and so believable, so credible as a western star. What was he like in real life?
Greg was really one of the nicest, if not the nicest. It was a toss-up between him and Paul Newman, I have to say, actors that I've ever worked with. He was charming, he was fun, he was quite shy in a way, and he was just lovely. He sort of kept himself to himself. I used to hang out with Henry Silver and Albert Salmi, who played the baddies in that movie, and Stephen Boyd. He was also a baddie. Yeah.
Look at the picture. What about it? Who is she? She was raped. Killed.
And there was no television in the middle of there, so we just used to play poker and drink a lot.
I think that's why people look for those obscure locations, and that's why Westerns are always something actors and actresses want to go on, because they get to do those things.
Absolutely, yes. I didn't ever want to do it again.
But
Sorry.
But Dame Joan,
Yes.
Dame Joan did another Western, and it was directed by Gianfranco Baldanella, who directed Robert Woods in a couple of Westerns like Blackjack. But you did one that was one of the variations of A Call of the Wild, the Jack London story.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we called it The Great Adventure, and we shot it in Spain. And Jack Palance, he was very scary. I played a kind of a saloon gal, one of those, and he played, I'm not quite sure what, he played a baddie, just for a change. And when he came in and he had to do scenes in which he grabbed my arm, having worked with Robert Mitchum, who I also did scenes with in The Big Sleep later on, and he used to grab me and hit me and do all these things in The Big Sleep, and I didn't have a single bruise or mark on me, as opposed to Jack Palance, who went every time he did it hurt more and more, and because he was a big guy, and I had like 5 big marks of fingers on my upper arm.
This is the man that did a one-armed push-up when he won an Oscar.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He had really strong, so you can imagine. But there was one, well, maybe I shouldn't tell this story.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Do we want to hear the story?
Well, these were the days, I think this was like 1978 or something like that, when American actors would go abroad and they would get paid in cash. You see, well, Palance is dead now, so it doesn't matter. And he got all his money, which I think was like $20,000, which was quite a lot of money then. I mean, that was 40 years ago or something. And so he had it in a briefcase, and he went through the security at the airport, and he got back to LA, and he got his suitcase and he opened it up, and all the money had gone. Somebody had filched it, stolen it, and he couldn't report it because it was kind of against the law. So he'd worked for all those months. Well, it was like 6 weeks. It was a kind of a cheapy production. Yeah.
Well, he was scary on screen too.
He was what?
He was scary on screen.
Too. He was very scary. Yes, he wasn't incredibly popular with anybody. I'm sorry. Is there any relatives of his here?
We didn't invite them because we knew you were coming. A lot of you may not remember that when Dynasty first went on the air, I know it's not a Western, but Dallas was, and because of Dallas's success, Dynasty happened. And the ratings were not good at all until they cast the bitch. Isn't that the term?
Yes. Well, we call her the vixen, but I mean, if you're...
I was close.
Yeah, and I also did a Western. I did a Western number in that. At one point, we are in... I don't know why, but we were in the West doing something, me and Dexter. You remember him? Yeah. And I got up and sang a Marlene Dietrich song from Destry Rides Again called See What the Boys in the Back Room Will Have. And I was done up in my Western gear. Did you ever see that, Rob?
I remember that,
Oh, you
yes.
do? Yeah,
but you know what I really remember most about Dynasty? Are the cat fights.
Oh, them.
Between you and Linda Evans.
Yeah.
Those were wild.
Well, they were. They were too wild, actually. Which is why I constantly called upon my trusty stunt double to do. But when we did one particular scene in which it's in the lily pond, and I did the whole thing because they couldn't, I fell into the pool. She pushed me. And in midair, you can see it. You can see my hat flew off, and you can see a scared face falling into the water when Linda, who's quite a bit bigger than me, started hitting me. And it actually got to the point where I was thinking of Gene Kelly's voice saying, "You're putting a stunt gal out of work, you're putting a stunt gal out of work." And I'm looking at Sandy and thinking, she should do this, she'll make money. Anyway, finally it came to the point when the director, I can't remember the director's name, he was supposed to yell, "Cut," just before she went back like this to give me one of those. But he didn't yell cut, so she connected with my chin, and I fell back against the back of the pond, and I came to in the emergency ward, having knocked myself out. So that was fun. Not.
It's like a Western, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a scene in Dynasty that made the whole world hate me, which is when Linda was riding a horse and she was expecting a baby, and I fired a shotgun near her. So the horse reared up and threw her, and she lost the baby. And that was a great plot that they brought up endlessly throughout season after season. You made me lose my baby.
Well, Linda was on Big Valley beforehand, so she had been in some scuffles already.
Well, she told me, because she was very scornful of me whenever I called upon my trusty stunt double to come and take over. And she said, well, when I worked with Barbara Stanwyck in the Big Valley,
Big Valley.
She insisted that we all do our own stunts. I said, well, good for her. But I'm from England.